We're going to manipulate this layer, so I'm going to double click on the layer over here, and it should pull up this menu right here. So what we're going to do is first we're going to add a drop shadow. We're going to change the opacity to 100, change the distance to about 3, and the size to about 10. We're also going to bevel and emboss it. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to change the depth to about 320%, make it really stand out. The size to about 1, and the softness to about 16. The last thing we're going to do is go down here to stroke, and instead of outside we're going to put center, and on color we're going to use a nice middle gray, which you can find and keep a steady middle gray by going down here to this little number deal and hitting 727272. So I'm going to apply that, and that should give us our word tutorial. So hit OK. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So duplicate layer, hit OK, and then the one that's on the bottom, so you got two of them that are exactly the same. Grab the one that's on the bottom and change the opacity to somewhere about 20. Found a real nice place to still see it, but not too much. So we're going to hit Control T. We're going to move this to the left just a little bit, and what it's going to kind of do is give us a kind of a 3D kind of depth look. You really can't tell through the camera, but trust me, it's there. Oh, I don't know if that helps. You can see it kind of on this edge right here. Alright, so now that we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our brush to paint behind the word. So we're going to do this kind of a funky way. We're going to hit, because we're going to make it like diamonds. So File, New. We want a nice square canvas, so we're going to go 400 pixels by 400 pixels and hit OK. And so we got this nice square canvas. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get that middle gray again so that we can kind of keep things the same. And we're going to go 727272, hit OK. And we're going to grab our polygon tool and make sure you got the shape selected up here, and then on sides it says 4. So we're going to, from the middle, we're just going to make a square and make sure that it's almost the size of the deal, of the canvas. Next thing we're going to do is grab this little tool over here, and it's our direct selection tool. We're going to grab the corners, and we're just going to bring these in to make a nice diamond pattern. So that looks pretty good. We're going to come over here and rasterize the layer, and then we're going to go to Edit and Define Brush Presets, and just name it as Diamonds, and hit OK. Now you can just close that. You don't have to save nothing to it. So now we're going to paint with it. So we're going to grab our brush and create a new layer, and I'm just going to name this one. I created 2 layers. I'm going to get something out of here I'm not working with. Okay, so we're just going to name this one Diamonds, so we know what we're doing on it. And we want this layer to be in between the text layers and the layer that we named White Light, so that you'll paint behind the letters. Grab your brush, go up here to select your brush. It's going to be the last one because we just made it. And I'm going to paint with white, so I'm going to grab my swatch over here to white. And I want to do it pretty small at first, and just paint. Oh, so grab white and make it kind of small. Now we're going to mess with the dynamics of the brush. So grab your brush settings, and on shape dynamics we're going to make sure that the control is on pen pressure, and then that the minimum diameter is on 0. The angle jitter we're going to set to 100. The roundness jitter is off, or the control is off. The roundness jitter we're going to set probably about half, so somewhere around 44-45% should be good. Minimum roundness we're going to want at 1%, and that's pretty good. And then we're going to go to scattering, and we're going to make sure both axes is clicked, and about 135%. We want our count to 1. Control jitter to 100. Control we want to select fade and then add a 1. And then we're going to go over here and select airbrush and smoothing. Make sure those are both highlighted. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to paint behind the word tutorial, just kind of crazy. And change the size a little bit. We'll go with kind of a medium big one. And then we'll give it just a few kind of really big ones to make it look kind of cool. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some shadows, but we're going to kind of do it in a funky way. So we're going to create a new layer and name this one shadows. And we'll go ahead and drag this layer all the way to the top above the text. So let me name this one shadows so I don't lose it and I know what I'm working with. Alright, now we're just gonna grab just a default brush. First one up here is fine, and we're gonna size it down to fit the word tutorial pretty much. And I'm just gonna grab some random colors. Here's some yellow, some blues, green. Kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of painting over it. Red. I'll only finish it back up with like a pale kind of color. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we're going to want to do is put a filter on this. So we're going to go to filter, blur. We're going to give it a Gaussian blur. And our radius, scratch that. We're going to give it a motion blur. So filter, blur, motion blur. And we're going to want our angle to 0. And then our distance, we're going to go ahead and set to 90. It's kind of high. Hit OK. And we're going to set our blend mode. So over here you got over by your layers, your blend mode to vivid light. And it's going to give you that look right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to mask it. So down here there's a little button to create a layer mask. And we're just going to kind of use our brush to paint over what is going to be above the word tutorial and kind of clear up the word itself. So, and then I'm going to Control T. I'm going to actually bring it up a little bit so that it kind of goes into the word. That looks good. Apply that. And so now we're going to finish making, like I said, we're making shadows. So the next thing we're going to do is if you switch up here to Essentials, up here in the top, because I had it on painting, you can hit Adjustments and hit black and white. And then what you can do is just kind of mess with these, see how it changes that to create the shadows. So we can kind of mess with it. We want the shards to kind of show through a little bit, and you can get too dark, too light. So that looks good. And just mess with these so you kind of get something that you like. So give me a while to just find some stuff that I like.
You never know what the economy is going to throw at you. And when you're trying to reach your financial dreams, it can make planning tough. But the principle.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna go back and paint a different color on this because it's not making a shadow very well. Okay. Okay. What I did was I painted with a color that's not over here, so it didn't allow me to make a shadow. So.
Don't lose gas for dandruff. Use Axe anti-dandruff shampoo. Use the flakes. Get to the girls.
Okay, so that looks pretty good. Gives it a nice shadow. Kind of choppy, but you can always mess with it for as long as you need to. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to go back to painting because I like to use this one. Make a new layer, and I'm going to call this one colors. So Name this layer, properties, colors. Alright, and what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing I just did. Grab my default brush, which I still got. I'm going to paint some colors over the words. So I got magenta, yellow, maybe like a baby blue, green, and finish it out with some red. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change the blend mode to color, which is down here towards the bottom, and it's going to start to look like that. And we're going to filter it, we're going to give it a blur. So we're going to go to blur and Gaussian blur, and we're going to set it to about 20 pixels. So that should give it a nice blur. And it's coming together pretty good. The next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to kind of sharpen up the image a little bit. So if you hit Control, Alt, Shift, E, and on a Mac it's going to be like Command, Shift, Alt, E or something like that. And what it does is it pretty much flattens the image and then puts it all back into a new layer. So that's kind of a cool trick. And I'm just going to duplicate this layer twice. Duplicate layer. And I'm going to turn the top one off, and I'm going to name this one Reduce Noise. So that's good. And so I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to Noise. I'm going to go to Reduce Noise. And on this, I'm going to set it the strength to 10. Preserve details, I'm going to set to 100%. And then reduce color noise, I'm going to set to 15% because we want to keep the color. And sharpness details, I'm going to set a little over half at 60%. And then I'm going to hit remove JPEG artifact, and I'm going to hit OK. And so that's starting to turn out pretty good. On this next one, we're just going to add a couple filters. So on this next one, I'm going to name it just filter motion. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go up here to filters, and I'm going to go to blur. And I'm going to go to motion blur. And I'm going to set the angle on this one to 90 degrees. Give it a up and down kind of look. And the distance smaller to around 15 or 17. And I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to blend this one, go to my blend load and go to hard light. So it's starting to look pretty good with the diamonds and everything. And so for this last one, and turn it back on, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to filter, and we're going to use a sketch filter. This one's called reticulation, and the settings on this one, you want the density to be 50. You want the foreground level to be 0 and the background level to be 5. Oh, but what we need to do first before we do that layer is select our colors at white, and then the background color is black. Sorry about that. So I just changed those colors right there. Go back to filter, sketch, and reticulation. So density 50, foreground level 0, background level 5. Hit OK, and you'll get a look like that. And we're going to change this blend mode to color dodge. So as you can see, it adds some little white speckles in there. And so the last layer that we're going to do, we're going to hit new layer. And we're just going to paint with a paintbrush. So let me find one that's kind of crazy and cool looking. Alright, that one looks good to me. I'm going to make it really big. I'm going to select white, and I'm just going to paint over it. And then I'm going to select the layer mode to overlay. And there you have it. That is the finished product to the Word tutorial. So kind of cool. Thanks for watching.